you have a structure that when you look at it, it looks like a machine and it has the precision of a machine. And so if it is a machine, then what does the machine do? And that was my challenge.
Hello, amazing people, and welcome back to The Ryan Files. Today we've got a guest that you might have seen on the Joe Rogan Experience. His work is shaking up everything we thought we knew about ancient history and the Great Pyramid of Giza. For decades, engineer and researcher Christopher Dunn has challenged the mainstream view that the pyramid was just a tomb. Instead, he's made the case that it was a machine, built with a level of precision that rivals modern engineering. We're going to dive into the secrets of the ancient construction, the latest scanning data, and whether the pyramid was part of a global energy system thousands of years ahead of its time. Buckle up, my friends. This one will change the way you see history. You're watching The Ryan Files. Let's dive in. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in this week to The Ryan Files. Today's guest on The Ryan Files is the one and only Christopher Dunn. He's an engineer, researcher, and author of the Giza Power Plant. For decades, Chris has brought an engineer's eye to the Great Pyramid, challenging the ideas that it was merely a tomb and proposing it might have been an advanced machine. Today, we're going to explore both the precision engineering of the Plaza Gito and the latest scan data, raising the new questions about what lies inside and beneath these ancient structures. Christopher Dunn, thank you so much for joining me on The Ryan Files.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Ryan.
So let's just get kind of into it. Quick background. I know that you're an engineer, and I love that you have that insight, bringing that insight into this equation. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you first started getting interested in the whole Giza complex.
Well, quick background. I originally started out as an apprentice in an engineering company in Manchester, England. And so when I completed my apprenticeship, I was a journeyman lathe turner and then followed a path through to being a tool maker, tool and die, engineer, manager. And so it's been a very successful 52-year career. I first started to look into the Great Pyramid in 1977, when I got a hold of the book, The Secrets of the Great Pyramid by Peter Tompkins. And in that book, he raises the question that a lot of researchers historically have asked, and that is, was the Great Pyramid really a tomb, or was it a symbol of an advanced civilization in the past that was sending us a message, and we had not yet completely understood that message. And so as an engineer, I looked at that and I thought, well, let's look at the details of the Great Pyramid and see if it supports that an investigation into that question. Was it a tomb or was it something else? And so basically, when you look at the historical data, and this is in the literature, it's been recorded well over 100 years ago. We had researchers going to Egypt, to the Giza Plateau, taking measurements, recording them, and then publishing books with their observations and measurements. And what they reveal is that what you have is a building that covers 13 acres, sits on the Giza Plateau, which is about 10 miles west of Cairo. It is 481 feet high, but the significant parts of it to me that were recorded by William Flinders Petrie in the 1880s. He was in Egypt for about 10 years doing systematic measurements and trying to understand, the basic nature. So essentially, if you have like a reverse engineering project, okay, you have something that you want to reverse engineer, you get the original and you would examine every detail of it. You take minute measurements of everything and then try and understand how it functions. That practice has been going on ever since the Industrial Revolution and before, where, the societies, they look over somebody's shoulder, they look into somebody's backyard, or another country and say, oh, what is that? And what is it doing? And, can I do that? Well, let's grab that and see
Right.
see if we can grab that and determine how it functions. Yep.
A lot of that going
Um,
on.
a lot of that going on, and it's still going on, and it will go on for eternity, however long that lasts. Oh, wait a minute. Eternity doesn't have an end date, right? So you have a situation where I was faced with obviously something that was well designed, well manufactured. And then when we look at the measurements, we see that it has a precision that is comparable to the work of machinists and tool makers, certainly not builders, right? So you have tolerances that are revealed that are to the thickness of a thumbnail. And so you have you have a structure that when you look at it, it looks like a machine and it has the precision of a machine. And so if it is a machine, then what did the machine do? And that was my challenge. Uh, you know, um, the way the blocks are fit together, they're line to line tight. You can't even fit a piece of paper between them. The descending passage from the original entrance over 150 feet was in alignment within the thickness of a thumbnail, which is about 20 thousandths of an inch. Um, and some of the precision that you find on other artifacts around Egypt is like a hair thickness precision, which is around 2 thousandths of an inch. So yeah, I mean, I made the assessment there that this is a machine. It has the precision of a machine only on a scale of acres.
Right.
So if you scale that down, you'd be looking at some like gauge-like precision in the components that went into it. Uh, and so that's when I began to investigate. Well, okay, let's look at some of the other comments on it and what people have said about it. And it seemed at the time, back in the 70s, I mean, that was probably before you were born, but the New Age movement was very active then. And so you had different books talking about the Great Pyramid, that it had, pyramid energy was big at that time. And also there was, the alternate kind of views of history that cropped up, where people were questioning our entire history on the planet. With books by Pauls and Bergier from France called The Morning of the Magicians, and Eric von Daniken, Chariot of the Gods, and then of course some of the other books that deal with pyramid energy are Patrick Flanagan, who wrote the book Pyramid Power. And so it was like a bit of a craze, but there was also at the same time a lot of pushback from the orthodox, or I would say academic, more conventional thinkers. Uh, because, I mean, let's face it, if you're talking about having to rewrite every history book on the planet and, re, redo your curricula and what you're teaching, that would be an enormous task and a tremendous amount of reluctance. And also, there's a kind of an ideological component to it, where as we have evolved in the West, the Western civilization, most of it, the foundations of it rested with the church. So the church was very powerful and influential on scientific thinking. And it wasn't until, Rene Descartes and a few others came along and started to write their thoughts on scientific philosophy based on doubt, and also, if you can't test it, then you can't accept it. If it's something that cannot be tested, you cannot accept it scientifically. I mean, you may accept it philosophically or ideologically, but the if if we're going to if you're going to influence a large group of people with the rightness or the correctness of your thinking, then you have to bring evidence, and it has to hold up under scrutiny. And so that influenced me a great deal. And I saw that when I engaged in this, or when I moved forward with this investigation of mine, that I had to find answers to everything. Everything had to fit. Everything that I was examining in the Great Pyramid had to be interrelated. So I looked at it as a complete system rather than, just a building with separate parts to it that had no relationship to the other. Uh, so as a machine, everything had a function that basically worked independently, but it was connected to every other part.
Right.
And so when you look at the Great Pyramid, you have you start at the bottom and you go from the subterranean chamber. It's down a descending passage. The subterranean chamber is at the end of this 350 feet long passage. And even through the quarried portion of the bedrock, the alignment of the complete passage was within a quarter of an inch.
Hmm.
And you could spend some time questioning, well, how were they able to accomplish that? Just having some guy with a copper chisel and a wooden hammer at the end of this, digging out the limestone, uh, and coming up with something that straight.
Yeah.
And with no lights, because obviously they didn't have electricity. And what were they using? Torches? Some people, some theorists have speculated that they had mirrors, and they held the mirror and shone the light and directed it down the passage. But that's just fantasy thinking. And so, all of those, there are so many mysteries, so many questions, and you're not going to be able to answer all of them. And I'm not claiming that I have answered all of them or proven any of the theories that I put there. But they are testable. That's the thing. And so the Giza Power Plant theory is a complete theory, an analysis of the Great Pyramid. But in order to prove it, it has to function. What does it take to do that? I don't have that kind of money. If I had 25, 50 billion to spare, you might be able to do it, but I don't have that capability. I mean, even taking the research further would be enormously expensive. I mean, I have a dream that somebody will eventually come along with the education and the tools to be able to do a complete forensic acoustic analysis of the interior of the Great Pyramid. I think that would tell us a lot, but that would cost money. I can't afford that.
And would you even be allowed to do that?
Oh, you can do it.
Okay.
I mean, you won't need permission to do it. If you got, you could do it in a university setting in America, or if somebody has the computing power and the knowledge in their basement or in their den, at home, they could do it there. It doesn't. You don't need permission. It's just like you introduced this segment, this podcast with commenting on the SARS, the scanning of the pyramid, right, and the revelation of underground structures. They didn't ask for permission. They didn't have to ask for permission to do that work. And they didn't ask for permission to release the information. So, that I think that is what's making some people in Egypt a little nervous, is that they're losing control of the narrative, and these mavericks are coming along and with modern tools, modern methods, and modern thinking, and they're telling a different story and sharing it very widely.
Yeah.
But I mean, the the data's coming in. And even now, when I wrote the Giza Power Plant, I look back, it was published, 27 years ago?
Yeah.
Uh, um, and I thought, well, I thought I kind of knew, I'd had all the data um, from what was available that day. Okay. And everything that had been revealed, I had I had worked into this overall theory and explained all the features, whether they be uh, residual substances in the Queen's chamber or above the King's chamber, the shafts going into the pyramid, the reasons for them, and everything had a place and everything had a function, and that's what the Giza Power Plant presented, was with those functions for each individual uh, item. Now, early this year, it's like I'm getting emails out of the wazoo, uh, the people saying, "Well, it looks like you were right, and this really feeds into your and supports your theory. So, would you mind commenting on the finding?" And I thought about that, and it was like, you remember when back a couple of years ago, when they had the Scan Pyramid mission project. That's where they were using muography. They had these muon detection plates that they were installed in the Great Pyramid in several places, in the Grand Gallery, in the Queen's Chamber, in the descending passage. And so various places of the Great Pyramid, they had these muon detection plates. And then they analyzed those plates and came up with like a point cloud for where these voids existed within the pyramid. And there's one very, very large one that nobody knew about, and it was right above the Grand Gallery, and seemed to be adjacent to, or even wrapped around. I'm not sure, the northern shaft. And so people, again, this is back then, as they said, people were calling me and saying, "Hey, what is it? What do you think that is?" And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I need more information. What you have is a point cloud that has low resolution. There's no clearly defined surfaces that you can look at, and even if there were, at this time, I'm at a loss to figure out what it is. I'd have to do some more research. Because you can't. I try to avoid a snap decision. Somebody asks, "What do you think?" And I'd have to do more research. Even when I'm out in the field and I see something, and somebody asks me, "Well, what are your thoughts on this?" And I was like, "Well, I have some questions about it, but I need to think about it before I comment on it, because my God, in this environment with the huge interest in this subject, I mean, there's like multi-millions of people around the world. Their attention is drawn. Whenever you say something's been found in the pyramids, everybody's eyes turn towards that, right? Absolutely. And it became a media circus, and I try to avoid media circuses. Sometimes I get wrapped up in them, but I try not to promote them. But anyway, so I was asked to comment on it, and I was asked to comment on it, but I couldn't give an answer. This is the Scam Pyramid mission. And then I got a call from my friend, Eric Wilson, who is a Rolls-Royce engineer, and he says, "Hey, you see the information on this new Scam Pyramid mission work, the muography?" And I said, "Yeah, I saw it." And he said, "Well, I think I know what that is." And I said, "Oh, do tell."
Right.
And he said, That I do believe, he said, I believe that that is a feature of the pyramid that was missing from your theory on the Great Pyramid being a maser, right? Or the maser activity of the Great Pyramid. A maser is microwave amplification through stimulated emission radiation. It's actually, when they invented the laser, they call it an optical maser because the maser was invented before that. But anyways, the maser is a way of it's microwave energy, and it can be it can be distributed, uh, you know, globally if you have like a satellite to bounce it off.
Hmm.
So, it's like a collimated beam of energy. You bounce it off a satellite and it can go somewhere else in the world. There was actually speculation of doing that back in the 70s, when Iceland were pondering how they could share all their geothermal energy with the world. That method was discussed. I don't think anything came of it, but it's not something I dreamed up, uh, over a barbecue in the backyard. So so the Maser part, he said that what it needed and what you had not described in your book was a preamp.
Oh,
And and I was like, oh, really? Okay, so tell me how that functions then. And Eric said, well, you know what? All you would need is an electrical connection to the northern shaft. So okay, so we got two copper rods connecting with the northern shaft, positive and negative, and then what else? Well, you just fill it with quartz crystal, and that should do it. Oh, okay. So it's a crystal oscillator, and basically it amplifies the signal, which I propose comes through the northern shaft, and the source of that signal is coming from outer space. And it's coming into the shaft that has the dimensions that will be suitable for a waveguide in the hydrogen range. So you have hydrogen, which has a wavelength of 8.4 inches, and you have a shaft that has the width of 8.309 inches and a height of 4.8 inches, which is, the shaft is at 4.8 inches high. And so a suitable waveguide would be the width of the wavelength of the micro or the electromagnetic signal, and the height will be about approximately uh, half the wavelength. So you got the wavelength and half the wavelength, and there you have your waveguide. And that is kind of a bit of a black art in designing those. What I've learned is in designing those waveguides, because as I learned from my friends Eric, that multiple bends are normal, and in the Great Pyramid you'll find multiple bends on the northern shaft coming into the King's Chamber, and transition points, and it's like it's tuned in a way so that when the beam enters the King's Chamber, it is collimated and it's going straight across the chamber. And then guess what? You look across the chamber where that signal comes in, and you see a large opening. It's a bulbous opening, and it's like a microwave horn antenna. It has that shape of, right, like a catcher's mitt,
yeah.
right? It's bulbous, and anyway, so I'd already identified that as the output of the microwave. And this input signal stimulates emission from energized hydrogen inside the King's chamber. Okay, so that's what's going on. That's what's feeding into the King's chamber from below, where you have the Queen's chamber, which two chemicals come in. They are filtered through limestone, and They are metered in at a specific rate. So only, there is a controlled amount of each chemical coming in. And from the north, you have hydrated zinc. One chemical that could be used, and in the south shaft, you have dilute hydrochloric acid that would come in, and then those two would mix, and hydrogen would boil off. And so the intention of the so-called Queen's chamber is to create hydrogen. That hydrogen then flows through the horizontal passage, and then enters the grand gallery, and up, and then just rises and goes into fills the king's chamber, and that's where everything else, all the action is. Not all the action, though. Some of the action, the energy production, is in the grand gallery, because you have an array of resonators that convert vibration coming through the pyramid, and they convert it to sound. That sound is then directed into the king's chamber because of the special design of the grand gallery. And it is a kind of a complicated system, but the grand gallery is one architectural feature that I think I would like to see a complete acoustic analysis of it. But the earlier indications are that just anecdotal observations, like there was one musician, or flute. He was a flautist, Paul Horn. He was in the 70s playing his flute, and he noted that when he was in the grand gallery, the sound was bouncing around the grand gallery, but it was flat. There was no reverberation in the grand gallery, but there was behind him. The sound that he was creating was bouncing around and going into the king's chamber behind him. So that was noteworthy, I think. Even though it's just a musician, a layperson making an observation. It all kind of adds to the whole story, and which it's kind of like I think they call it a heuristic kind of exercise, where you keep grabbing information from this source and this source and this source. Does this fit? Does this fit? So you plug it in, see if it fits. If it doesn't, you throw it out. If other information comes in and it kind of something collapses, then you have to throw that out. That was the whole path of the Giza Power Plant and up to this point. But some of the information that was revealed since has supported the original theory. Number one was the theory that I proposed, that the king's chamber, which had shown signs of disturbance in the past, where they had the walls had expanded, and the granite beams above the chamber had cracked. That they basically, I proposed that there was a hydrogen explosion within that chamber that caused that, because no other part of the pyramid showed similar disturbances or effects. I mean, the precision of the whole structure, except for the fact that the king's chamber was blown apart, but it didn't collapse. Right. So other parts of the pyramid were not affected the same. Except there was, and this happened to me in 2001, and it was a complete surprise. I was with Grizzly Adams Production, and we were they were making a documentary, and I was invited to present on the Giza Plateau. And then after the filming, the field producer and I went up to see Zahi Hawass, and we got permission to go inside the Great Pyramid, to go see the workers' village that he had discovered, and then also the Serapeum, which is an entirely different subject. Uh, it's related, but it's a different subject. Um, so anyway, we're pleased for that. At the time, there was all kinds of rumors on the internet. It's kind of like, when people, it becomes, it kind of ebbs and flows where you'll have a huge wave of interest, something, and then that collapses. And then, there's a period of time when things go quiet and then something else happens and you have a huge interest in it. And then, it's different phases that you go through. And I've been through several of them. But at that time, there was all kinds of rumors on the internet that Zahi Hawass was digging a tunnel from the bathroom in his office, which was a distance away from the pyramid, and he was digging this tunnel so that he could access what was behind Ganton Brick Store. That was the rumor. And it's kind of laughable in a way, and they closed the pyramid ostensibly for cleaning. And so that the rumors around that was just a ruse, right? They weren't really cleaning the pyramid. They were closing it so that they can do something shifty or shady, or, some skullduggery was going on. And Zahid was the evil nemesis behind it, uh, and he wasn't. I mean, they actually did clean it. When I went into the Great Pyramid, and we were in the Grand Gallery, you could see that they had done a really good cleaning on the inside. Because the last time I was in there, it was 1999, and it was dirty and dusty.
Right.
And the thing is that by 2001, when I entered, they had even cleaned the ceiling in the Grand Gallery. And if you look at that ceiling, it's like a ratcheted ceiling where these tiles, right? And I talk a little bit about that in my book too. But anyway, so they had cleaned that. And lo and behold, when I looked up at the ceiling, I saw these scorch marks. And the scorch marks were significant to me because what I had proposed, that there was an explosion in the King's Chamber, which would have affected just about everything, that was close to the King's Chamber. And so I had also proposed that these structures existed in the Grand Gallery, and there was 27 pair of slots that go up the length of the gallery. And I proposed that they housed these resonator structures that reached up to the ceiling. And when I looked at those scorch marks, they were right above the slots in the Grand Gallery, on the ramp in the Grand Gallery. So you had these slots here, and then right above that, you had these scorch marks. So I think that was fairly strong confirmation that I was on the right track in terms of introducing the idea of these resonators in these frames, and that each resonator was responded to a different frequencies, or they put out different frequencies because of the distance between the walls. And so the walls kind of, they call them corbelled, but the width of the gallery is about 82 inches wide at the bottom and 42 inches wide at the top. And there are seven corbels. So that's a lot of resonators, a lot of energy going through. And the other confirmation came actually, I think it was a 2000, no, yeah, 2002. It's a year later when the Pyramid rover explored the southern shaft in the Queen's Chamber. And their intention in that exploration was to measure the thickness of the limestone at the end of that shaft. And if you recall, in 1993, Rudolf Gantenbrink had a robot he called Uport 2 that had gone up that shaft with a camera, lights and a camera, and found where it ended. Because before then, before Gantenbrink came along, nobody knew where that shaft ended. And his robot came up to this block, limestone blockage, with two metal fittings coming through it. And I don't know what the material is. Somebody said copper, but we don't know. I don't know that. But these fittings, I was actually with a friend, and we were looking at that, and he said they look like electrodes, and I was like, bingo. I was thinking the same thing, but he got it out before me, so I have to give him credit for it. His name's Jeff Summers. He lives in Texas. But anyway, so I I said, yeah, that really, really fits, because the whole idea behind uh, having electrodes there is to alert or trigger the replenishment in the shaft of whatever chemical they were using. And the reason for that is that the amount of fluid or the amount of chemical that is pushed through into the Queen's chamber depends on the head pressure, which is the weight of fluid in that column, you know. And so when you think about that part of it, that they have to accurately meet, like in supply, a certain amount of fluid into the Queen's chamber for the process. And if they don't know the level of the fluid, like, you know, that could drop like halfway. It could actually empty out completely, and then everything would stop. But to have these electrodes that are immersed in the fluid, then a contact is made, right?
Yeah.
You got electricity flowing from, you got electrons flowing from one to the other. And and so having that there, it became, you know, it's like, yeah, that's confirmation. But there was something else too. Before they drilled the hole in that, when the Gantenbrink found it, I'm just backing up a little bit. When Gantenbrink found it, it was Hawass immediately labeled it a door. He called it a door. So everybody then referred to it as Gantenbrink's door, except Gantenbrink. Gantenbrink did not call it a door. He called it a USO, which was kind of cute. It's a unidentified stone object. So he didn't know what it was. But I had in the Giza Power Plant, you can see the drawing that I made. I had that block as a block, right, through which those metal fittings came through, and my measurement on it was illustrated at around 3.6 inches. And when they measured the thickness of it using like a sonic ultrasonic thickness tester, uh, it was determined to be 3.25 inches. So nobody knew if there was, how thick it was, uh, what was behind it, or anything. And when you look at my drawing and what was revealed at that time, I was almost there in in my analysis of it, and my artist's impression of what might have been there.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just there's still a lot more to learn there. There's still more research to go on.
Yeah. So you're talking about,
So
and let me get this straight if I can, so I get my head wrapped around it and people listening.
I'm talking too much. Sorry.
No, 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 not at all. It's fascinating. You're basically talking about some sort of a device, a machine, as you call it, where you
Right.
have, in the Queen's chamber, you have this chemical mixture that creates hydrogen that flows upwards. And then we're eventually getting into the grand gallery thing. And then you also have the hydrogen coming in. And it seems like it's all exciting, this hydrogen mixture, and then putting it all up into the king's chamber. And then is that kind of a real simplified idea of what's going on?
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, what you have is a signal, microwave signal from atomic hydrogen in the universe, and so the hydrogen rises as a gas, and then the energy that is being created within the pyramid drives that hydrogen atom to a higher energy state.
Okay.
And so it increases the electron is pumped to a higher energy state, similar to how a laser works, right? And so then if you have what they call a stimulated emission, where uh, a similar photon will come in and strike that electron, it drives it down to ground state, and the result of that is that atom releases a packet of energy which is entrained with the beam, and it's all happens very, very rapidly. And the laser, it will bounce between two mirrors, and it will maintain, depending on the entire system and the kind of laser, uh, it will it will turn on instantly. You have a laser pointer, and basically what you're doing is you are doing that same thing. You have diode lasers now, which are pretty much replacing YAG lasers in industry. When I was working with lasers, which I was in around 2003, we were using ND YAG lasers, and the maximum, I think at that time, the maximum wattage of the laser that we were using was 400 watts. Now it's like thousands of watts. So the 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 industry, science and technology progresses.
And
But
so,
to be clear, a lot of people imagine that the hydrogen is for a combustive process, where you burn it, it burns off. But that's not the case here. It's 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 an atom. It's a gas. There's no combustion, but there is there is the introduction of energy that affects it such that the electrons are pumped up to a higher energy state, and then those electrons are affected by the input signal, which has already been amplified, and then the resulting energy goes through the southern shaft via that bulbous opening. So, um, and what else they will find, I have no idea. They may find something to dispel the entire notion of a power plant. So far, they haven't. And as more evidence keeps coming in, it keeps supporting the power plant theory.
That's got to make you feel good, given that you came up with this idea 27 whatever years ago, and here we are.
Oh,
20, yeah, right.
okay. I came up with the idea in 1977. That was almost 50 years ago, right?
Wow.
40 odd years ago.
Well, I'm glad you wrote the book, documented it, got that credit.
Well,
man.
It took me 21 years to write that book.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Get it published. I started it in 1977 and finally got it published in 1998. So it was 21 years, to get that book published.
So we have this awesome technology, potentially, based upon your theory, that was built. We don't really know when, a long time ago, and the popular, perception is that mankind was not as intelligent back then, not whatever. And, there's so much about this, Chris, whenever it comes to just the building of the structure. Forget about the science, the hydrogen, the this and that and the other thing, the equations of it. Forget about that. Let's just build this structure. Okay. There's a lot of questions about how that even happened, let alone the technology. And listen, the truth of the matter is, if it was a tomb, that's a lot of work for just a tomb. But if it was this, we got to get past the building of it, number one, and then we got to address the technology or the why it was built, which your theory does. But man, that's a lot different than the standard narrative out there about people, however many thousands of years ago.
Right. I mean, this turns up our whole concept of a linear history of development on the planet, where you go from the extremely primitive and simple to where we are now, considering ourselves the apex of technological development. And and what we have is this structure from thousands of years ago that expresses a technology that supersedes what was available in the Industrial Revolution, right? And even some parts of it, what is available today, because there is so much in Egypt that challenges us and our concept of the abilities of ancient people.
Right.
And I don't have any preferred scenario. You know what I mean, in terms of the who and the when. It could have been created 500 years ago. It could have been created 5,000 years ago. Doesn't matter, To me, I'm examining it strictly from a Cartesian perspective, using engineering, and so analyzing some of the other artifacts that you find in Egypt has been very, very interesting and challenging.
Yeah.
And so, but now you've got the SAR scans that come in.
Yes.
And that, if it bears out to be true, is a real game changer. I don't think, I mean, geez. There's so many things um, that make you, make your jaw drop when you think about the implications that that study has.
And for the record, we're talking about these columns below,
Right.
going down below the pyramid. I think there's 9 of them, 9 major ones going down. I think,
Well,
and
there's 8. I think there's 8 under the Khafre's pyramid. I think there's 4 under. Uh, there's 8, 4, and 6, I think, and
right.
then there's one uh, under the Sphinx. I think is it the Sphinx that has one,
And these go like
and
miles down, right?
then you've got the Osiris shaft, um, but then you look at the when I heard about that, and I was like, oh, I was skeptical at first.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is too much. I can't. Uh, let's have some solid information here, and I am still cautiously optimistic that it is reality. I am not qualified to challenge any of their findings, but I do question how they were able to extract the very precise geometric data out of the scans. And and so I'm hoping I'll be able to find answers to that, because I'll be uh, I'll be meeting the team not this weekend, but the following weekend at the Global Pyramid Network conference in Wadsworth, Illinois, which is going to be held in a pyramid. So uh,
Perfect.
maybe they'll scan around that to see if there's any shafts under that before they show up. But Filippo Bionde, Mando May, and Trevor Grassi, who's been heavily involved in research on the Giza Plateau, will be speaking there. I'm looking forward to that, as well as some other excellent speakers. But what I am most excited about is the work of Friedman Freund, and what it portends for the future in terms of future energy production. Friedman Freund is a German physicist, and he worked for NASA for about 30 years. He's a professor. He's a professor at the San Jose State University, and also a member of the SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And so he had spent many years studying what the physics were behind earthquake lights.
Mm.
Earthquake lights, I mean, you've a really active place for earthquake lights is Marfa, Texas. So it's well known for these terrestrial light shows. But normally, earthquake lights will show up before an earthquake, and so his work was involved in trying to determine what the underlying physics were that caused the earthquake lights, and if a early detection system could be created so that the populations would have more advanced notice of when an earthquake was going to go off. So what he found was that, and he had a theory, and he tested his theory. And basically, what he did, he brought all different kinds of igneous rock into his lab. One of them was a very long beam of granite, and he put it under pressure in a hydraulic press. his theory was that there were these peroxide defects in the minerals in igneous rock. And when they were put under pressure, they would release positive Hall electrons, which would shoot to the surface. And and so basically, what he did in his lab was he tested many different kinds of igneous rock: granite, diorite, gabbro, basalt, different kinds of rock, to determine if each type of rock had that same peroxide default in the minerals. And he found that when he put this granite beam under pressure, the electrons would flow. He had an oscilloscope, and he had it equipped where the pressure end, from the pressure end to the open end, he had it capped with copper and then a lead going back from one to the other, uh, with the oscilloscope in between, recording the flow of electrons. And he said, put it under pressure, and electrons flowed for quite a while. And so he proved his theory. He published many papers, and he also, the work that he did, which was, described in his papers, along with all the math, which is way over my head. And and he basically, another team in Japan, physicist in Japan, uh, actually confirmed his theory, and did the same, conducted the same tests, and came up with the same results. So essentially, he presented his theory. The theory was falsified, and now it's on the record. Well, cut a long story short, it is a long story, though, isn't it? But it's important, I think, because what you have is we're sitting on a battery, or a potential battery, right? We have igneous rock. We have the sedimentary layers, and then the igneous layers, and basically, as you go deeper, the igneous rock, becomes a little more homogeneous, and so you have a situation where we have a battery, which, under the right conditions, will release an untold amount of energy, and it does it naturally through nature on a regular basis, through earthquakes.
Yeah.
But what if you did it intentionally, and in a controlled way? And so I introduced that work, his work, in my latest book, which is Giza, the Tesla Connection. I'm not sure if you've heard of that.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, I introduced Freund's work. I wish I had known about the SARS scanning team, because that presents a really intriguing scenario. Oh my God. It's mind-blowing, really. And it's almost like, oh, I can't believe that. I can't believe that. No, no. Really? Would they do that? Well, imagine this. They're ancient Egyptians, before they put their pyramids on top, they were excavating out these large columns, these, drilling out these tubes down into the plant, into the earth. They went right through the sedimentary rock and penetrated deep into the igneous rock, right? And these columns are like, what, 10 meters diameter, uh, a kilometer deep. I don't know. I've heard 2 kilometers, but and then they're on top of these huge pedestals, or open pedestals, which, um, I'm like, well, there's 2 things. They were prospecting. Initially, you would prospect for electrons. Okay, what area of the planet is releasing the most electrons? Where do we get? Where is there igneous rock that is the most active on the planet? And there's several areas around the planet that are active, right? Uh, and then can we capture those and then distribute them to our populations to power their dishwashers and electric cars or whatever they've got flying around, and and uh, and I can't help but say, not today, not tomorrow, maybe in your lifetime, certainly not in mine, but at some point in the future, if we work towards that, that could happen.
Hmm.
You have, you know, that energy exists. You know how you can tap into it. I mean, you just look at what we do to extract oil, with fracking and all of that. Uh, we go to extraordinary length to draw energy out of the earth because we need it. Our technical civilization needs it. So, but this is like, okay, so we have the power. It's under our feet. We know it's been proven. Let's go get it. How do we get it? Let's build a pyramid, you know. And then
That's intriguing. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it?
right, let's build a pyramid. And okay, so how do we distribute it? I don't know. There's this guy who was working back in the day when Edison was around. What was his name? Oh, Tesla.
Yeah. All
Let's
wireless.
do it wirelessly.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing
Right.
about that is that, you think about energy. I don't know that wireless energy is ever going to happen in my lifetime because it's just too many people's pockets that would get, the oil industry and everything else. But, oil, you gotta go from oil to burn it to get electricity. This is
Yeah.
just getting electricity,
On the nose, my friend. I mean,
it's taking
this is
away
what
that
you have.
yeah,
Okay.
it's taking away
This
that
is
whole
what you
process.
have. We don't create electricity, we harvest it, right?
Yeah.
So we don't create electrons,
Yeah.
we harvest them. And the way we've been doing it for over 100 years is like, burn it, boil it, blow it, right? So you burn fossil fuels, uh, you boil water, you create steam. Steam blows these turbines, and then the generator, the commutator at the end of it, harvests the electrons and feeds it out to the population. What happened before all that happened? Well, we have these coal mines like, I don't know, 100 miles away or wherever. And we fill these coal cars. Those coal cars snake through the landscape and arrive at the power plant, and then there you go into an area where they're crushed. They go into a crusher because they're injected into a furnace like a dust rather than lumps. And how much does all that cost?
Right. Very inefficient.
Very inefficient. And is another thing. You know how many Great Pyramids you could build out of all the coal that went into power plants in 2023?
How many?
Oh, yes.
Oh gosh. It's hard to guess. I mean, it's got to be huge, though, right?
76.
That's incredible.
So basically, all the coal that was burned in 2023 you could build a pyramid 76 times the size of the Great Pyramid.
That's a 13-acre footprint on those as
Right.
well.
So,
That's
yeah.
massive.
Yeah. I mean, come on. That's been burned.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
this raises a couple questions. Okay, once again, the fascinating thing about this is not just how you have researched this and your theory is not just awesome, but also being supported by new data, potentially, and maybe even completing the puzzle of this machine. We have pyramids all over the earth, all over
Right.
the earth. Wonder
Right.
if it's the same technology. And then number two, something fascinating. This energy gets shot out. How in the ancient days, you talked about having, some sort of a reflector in space. I mean, but we're assuming that they didn't have a big reflector in space, or did they? I mean, is there any thoughts about that?
I would, I won't put anything past the builders of the pyramid and their technology and what they had. It may not exist today, but I mean, yeah, I can imagine just looking at some of the artifacts that they left behind, the Great Pyramid particularly, and that was the product of a development of technology and the state of the art of a very advanced civilization. And it had an ROI that would put ours to shame in terms of uh, how much it would cost to get a kilowatt hour out of it. I
Right.
mean, can you imagine? It's like, oh my God, just the transmission of electricity over wires is inefficient, and the losses there. I mean, why we're not rushing, down to southern Indiana and digging up all the limestone to build a pyramid? Uh, yeah, I mean, maybe one of these days we will.
But
But uh, I think starting small. Obviously, things have to be tested. You're not going to have, you're not going to build a great pyramid right off the bat. You probably build something smaller and test out the different concepts.
what kind of scale are you talking? You're talking about the, you know, 50-foot by 50-foot base, or are we talking bigger? Are we talking, I mean, just to maybe get to verify and improve upon the design and all that. I mean, where do you
Yeah, I
think it'd be?
think, yeah, I think the first thing would be a really high level study uh, of the technology and to computer model it and to basically get some kind of comfort level on if you invested further in materials and started to buy up land and even going around the country and doing prospecting for electrons, find out where you wanted to put your pyramid. Uh, that 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 would take an investment right there.
I can just
But
see. I have friends in like Pennsylvania and some other places where they would come around and be like, "Hey, your property's over some stuff. We want to frack. We'll give you some money for it and whatnot." Just imagine being like the landowner. Hey, we want to build a pyramid right here on your property.
right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I give a presentation and in one of my slides I have Oliver Twist, right? And he's got a bowl and he's saying, I've got a little word bubble there. Please, sir, may I have more electrons?
yeah, yeah. That's what makes the world go around now, and especially with the high demands coming with AI in terms of energy consumption and whatnot, man.
Right,
There's
right. Well,
there's
there's another aspect to it too. And I'll keep this short. The what you're going to do with all the rock that you pull out of those holes,
what are you gonna do?
right? What are you going to do with it?
Yeah,
I mean, we talk about bringing granite from Aswan, which is 500 miles away. Maybe they didn't need to go 500 miles to get their granite.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't think anybody's thought of that because that's too wild.
Wow. So you'd build the pyramid out of these
What you
kilometer
pull
deep
out of the
holes.
ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This whole concept of the Giza plateau, it seems though like it's all working in concert in some way, especially with these shafts are true and all the different structures having them. Seems like it's
Oh yeah.
all one
So
big machine.
one huge system. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is incredible, really.
I
Yeah.
got a I got a final question for you, and I don't want to get into speculation. This is fascinating stuff, man. Thank you so much. But do you think in any way, shape, or form, because this happens, I've talked to a number of people in government and science and whatnot who consistently say, like, what we know of that is existing around us today is about 50 years old, maybe more.
Mhm.
What's the possibility, probability that somewhere out there, China, Russia, United States, somewhere, they have a pyramid and it's producing energy and it's being used? What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm like you. If there is, I don't know about it.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't really, but I'm very skeptical of what I read on the internet or, or these AI little video shorts that come up. They're very entertaining, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I
listen,
mean, I think just so you got a different idea, so you don't want to look at a pyramid and you want to build something else. Okay, but go for those electrons, really, and quit digging coal out.
yeah, yeah, it would change it. It would change everything. I'll tell you what, if I win the lottery, I'll give you a phone call. We'll get the computer modeling going on this thing.
Well, I
And
think, yeah, I mean, maybe you are, if you're talking to politicians, maybe you should talk to the current administration and say, hey, you could really make a difference.
yeah, yeah. And this has been fascinating. Tell people how they can get a hold of you. I was on your website. I saw that you're going to be in Illinois. What's the name of the place? You're on the 26, 27, 28, something like that.
Oh, yeah, that's in Wadsworth, Illinois. It's the Global Pyramid Network Conference, and the anti-focus of the conference, the substantial focus is on the electric pyramids.
Okay.
And so that will be what I will be talking about, obviously. There's some other presenters, Leo Walton, who has recently published a book called The Giza Protocol, um, which I haven't read the book yet. It's just come out, but I'd be interested in getting a copy of that and reading it. Maybe you could talk to him. And then there's Filippo, Trevor, Armando, Billy Carson's going to be there talking, and a few others that are uh, also working in this area. But
Yeah. It's very interesting, man. Very interesting.
it should be fun, and it's
Where's
actually taking place in a pyramid, and you know, it's a fact. They're really good people.
where is Wadsworth?
Wadsworth is it's northwest of Chicago.
Okay.
Elgin
Yeah,
is
Elgin.
a close.
Elgin. Yep. Okay.
Elgin, Illinois. Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
that I can get up there. It's on a weekend, right?
it is. Yeah, yeah.
I might have to send someone up
26
there and
through 28.
yeah, I might have to
Huh?
send someone up there to attend and because I can't make
Be
it
there.
myself. Yeah. I'd love to be there. Gosh, I would love to be there, but I might send someone up to catch it and report back. So, well, this has been fascinating. Website is gizapower.com, correct?
That's the one.
All
Yeah.
right. Any social media, anything like that?
Ryan, I'm not very good at social media. I mean, I look at the way, the new generation are handling social media is that I first looked into it. I thought, well, maybe I'll have a YouTube channel and, create content for my YouTube channel. It's like I'm looking at these young guys doing YouTube, and I'm like, I can't compete with them. I'm going to stay in my lane and do research, and I'll publish occasional article and notify people that it exists if they want to do something, on a podcast or talk to me about it. Like today, I'm happy to do that. But there is another project that I'm very interested in completing before I exit the planet, because I'm going to be 80 in January.
January what? What's your birthday?
5th.
All right. January 12th.
We're
cut from the same cloth. Yeah.
Well, Elvis was January the 8th, right?
Yeah. Why would you bring that up?
I have no idea.
Good.
Something triggered in my brain.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, listen, folks, get his books. I have the other one upstairs, Tesla Connection, Giza Power Plant. Get his books. Amazon or your website. Where do you prefer?
Yeah, the Amazon. All the brick and mortar stores if they have it, but Barnes and Noble, Borders, Best Books.
And you're on Inner Traditions as well, I believe. Yeah.
Inner Traditions Bear & Company, and my books have been published under the Bear label. So
yeah, there you go. All right, man.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you.
I can't say enough about Bear & Company people and Inner Traditions. They are wonderful to work with, and they've kept my books in print for 27 years, so can't complain.
That's a big deal. I've talked to the people over there, getting some people to come on the Ryan Files, and they're awesome people. For someone like me, for them to be awesome with me is good news for you, because they really are supporting you by allowing me to contact you and all that, and just get your word out. So I appreciate it. You're the guy. You're the guy with all the research. We're just the transmitters of it, So you're a
necessary part of the process, because
of the machine.
Without guys like you, I can't possibly have the reach that you do, and I can't possibly connect with the people that are drawn to you, because I'm a baby boomer, and I don't speak the language a lot. I find. Well,
I'm getting to that point too. This young generation coming up, man, who were born with it. I was in college when the internet first came around, so it's like, oh, it's crazy.
Oh, you were there in the 90s, were you?
Yes. Yeah. So.
Well, you're older than you look. I thought you were a kind of a Gen Z kind of guy. But
52. I'm 52.
Oh. Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Well done. Clean living, right?
I guess. Something like that. Well, listen, I appreciate you. Anytime you have any research or anything, want to come back, we'd love to have you, because you're awesome. And I appreciate this. I know our guests are going to appreciate it too. Any last words?
Peace, love, respect, love your neighbor.
Let's get a new energy system.
Stop doom scrolling.
Amen, brother. You're awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Christopher Dunn, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Ryan. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. The stones that built the pyramids may not have come from the Aswan quarry hundreds of miles away, but rather from the stones removed from these 2-kilometer deep columns below the pyramids. Wow, that blew my mind. And if this conversation with Christopher Dunn blew your mind too, here's how you can help keep it going. First, make sure you're subscribed right here on YouTube. Hit that bell, smash the like button, and share this episode with a friend, and drop a comment. That's how we keep reaching new people, and it makes a bigger impact than you realize. Now, for more, head over to theryanfiles.com, our hub for everything we're building. You can also become a channel member right here on YouTube for early access and custom emojis, or join our Patreon family at patreon.com/The Ryan Files, where our agents get exclusive aftermath content and behind-the-scene drops. And folks, you know it, this is an independent show. It's just me behind the mic and the edits, lining up the guests, doing it all, putting it all together. I'm building this one brick at a time, and your support is what makes it possible. When you subscribe, share, join as a member, or back us on Patreon, you're not just helping me, you're helping grow a community that's getting bigger every week. Together, we're making the Ryan Files something the algorithms can't ignore. Thank you. And don't forget, if you prefer to listen on the go, well, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The audio for this episode will drop tomorrow. Check it out. You folks are awesome. Be amazing, be positive, stay curious out there, my friends. And I'll see you right here next week on The Ryan Files.
Are you not curious?
Preparing to transfer the Ryan Files. Now.
I present to you, with great intrigue and wonder, the Ryan Files.